moving right along to our next speaker. This speaker I've gotten to know a little better than most. One of the reasons is because he's just a good guy and he extended friendship to me from the very beginning, and I aspire to speak like him one day. He's a wonderful storyteller. Tonight, his story is called The Blizzard. He's been in Toastmasters since May of 2011. This is his 12th speech, so you would expect him to be twice as good as Marco, but he's not.
He's not.
What line of work is he in? Web production. Maybe he can make an app. Marco, you never know. He's here to become a better speaker like every one of us. And he did tell me something silly about him. He says that he likes to dance around his house. We didn't get into whether or not there was music playing at the time or what he was wearing. But without further ado, a wonderful storyteller, David Chatfield.
Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. For your enjoyment, The Blizzard. January 2nd, 2007. The time was around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. I stood next to my car, looking at my hands, which were freezing and wet, and had a thought that came to me with blinding clarity. This is one of the worst days of my life. My car was stuck in the snow, it was dark, and I was at a loss what to do next. That certainly wasn't how I had imagined my day unfolding 12 hours earlier. The day had begun with excitement. A family ski trip. We got on the road and had an uneventful ride for several hours. By late afternoon, we reached the point where I needed to put the snow chains on the tires, no problem. Before long, however, we reached a road closure, where we learned that there was a blizzard up ahead. We needed to wait for a few hours while snow plows cleared a path for us to get to the city of Mammoth. We sat in the car, joked, laughed, played music on my iPod, played some games. It was all good. After more than an hour of this, the roads were open and we slowly made our way, 10 to 15 miles per hour at the most. Finally, we reach Mammoth, where it stops snowing. But the snowbanks in some areas are 10 to 15 feet tall. Everything's covered in snow. Stop at a store, have a conversation with the person behind the register, tell them where in town we're staying. The person says, "Oh yeah, that place has a tricky driveway." When we reach the property, I see it's not really a driveway, it's really a road, about 100 yards long, that cuts through a community of condos. It's on an incline, and about halfway up you can turn to the left or to the right to get to condos over here, condos over there, or you can go all the way to the top to reach yet more condos. As we're driving up the road, we realize it's impossible to read the signs because we're covered in snow. Then I got stupid. It didn't occur to me that if you're in the middle of an inclining road that's covered with a couple of feet of snow, you shouldn't stop. So naturally, that's what I did. I figured I'd get out of my car, go brush the snow off one of the signs, see where the condo is, hop back in my car, get us to that condo. The car, however, was now stuck. So I gave it a little bit of gas. Snow chains came right off the tires. So I couldn't deal with the snow chains with my ski gloves, so I pulled out some workman's gloves, like you might see and use in your backyard. They're not waterproof, but it's not an issue when you're putting snow chains on at the base of a mountain. I, however, was not at the base of a mountain anymore. So I tried putting the chains on, and it's cold, and it's dark, and it's wet, and there's too much snow on the ground around my tires. And I can't do it. I try, and I just can't. And by this point, my hands are just absolutely freezing. Even worse, there's a line of cars that I'm blocking because I'm in the middle of an incline. People are honking. This guy gets out of his truck and he starts cursing at me, yelling angrily. My 2 young daughters, who are in the car, are in such distress that they start crying. And I stand there knowing I'm not going to be able to get the chains on this car and get us to the condo. And that's when I thought to myself, this is one of the worst days of my life. So after a few more torturous moments, someone suggests that he can plow through the snow on the side of the road and I should be able to back up down the road to the entrance. That's what we do. I back up slowly down to the bottom where I know, unfortunately, I'm going to have to deal with those chains again. And my hands were painfully cold. And the thought of attempting those chains again and getting my hands colder and wetter is just miserable. But I give it a shot, and because there's not as much snow and the ground is flatter, I'm able to do it. We don't feel much better, however, because we know that there's no way I'm going to get up that driveway. We also know that there's nowhere else to stay in town because every hotel room in the city has been taken. So we're feeling down, very depressed, but also hungry. So we figure, let's just go eat. So we go to a restaurant, and the entire meal, we're all morose because we know what's ahead. Another attempt getting up the driveway. So we make a plan. We're going to drive at a slow, steady pace all the way to the top without stopping. So we get to the top, and we start making our ascent slowly, 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 and then something in the snow causes us to stop. And I can't believe it. I almost start screaming. I get out of the car to check what's happening. And fortunately, the chains are still on the tires. And I'm thrilled because I don't want to do anything to make the chains come off the tires. So we get an idea. My wife will get behind the wheel and she'll give it a little bit of gas, move the car forward, then take her foot off the gas, let it roll back, and then give it just enough gas, at which point I will use my giant muscles to push the car, giving it just enough force to get forward momentum. And it worked. We dislodged the car, we got to the top, we made it to the condo, and we had possibly the best ski vacation that we ever took. Mr. Chestnut.